How many Masai does it take to turn on a light bulb? It doesn't matter, because they will still go to create a mountain of a story about a character who penetrates with an antagonist. Yes, we got to Pumpkin Night. The story behind the authorship of Masai Hakazona is about a girl who put on a pumpkin mask and went to kill her abusers. The audience has a rather strange attitude towards manga. It's kind of popular, but it's like people are waiting more and more for it to end. Let's heat it. Welcome to Pumpkin Night. The manga begins with shots in which Masaya tells us, as it were, that the jokes are over and it's time for real blood. In the frame, we see a bunch of psychiatric hospital doctors who were brutally killed by a girl in a hospital gown and a pumpkin mask. The author turns our attention to another girl who is laughing on Twitter with a dog in cosplay by Thor from Devil's Island. Suddenly, she receives a notification. Pumpkin Night has subscribed to you. Going to the profile and opening the avatar, the girl began to laugh. Funny girl, it's Pumpkin Night. Why not subscribe in response? But then suddenly a new notification. You have received a new message. Then the laughter ends and fades away when the girl sees the contents of the letter. Asami immediately panicked. What the hell? How does this person know her name? The doorbell rang. Is it really a new subscriber who has come? In fear, Asumi slowly walked forward. The doorbell rings non-stop. The girl decided to spy who came from the window. Somehow, but she manages to calm down, seeing that this is an Amazon courier. Exhaling, the schoolgirl went down to open the door, as the courier immediately fell forward, staining her with blood. The back of his head is pierced. In front of Asumi herself, that Pumpkin Knight appears with a knife. The girl in the pumpkin mask attacks. Asumi defends herself with a door. Closing it, she falls back in horror and frantically tries to figure out what to do. Picking up the phone, the schoolgirl is going to call the police, but then a friend calls her. Picking up the phone, Asumi asks Kazuya's friend for help, but he interrupts her with the words, "Science has escaped." What? The schoolgirl stupidly asks again. The voice explains that Naoko Kirina, their former classmate, the one who was taken to a psychiatric hospital, killed all the nurses and patients there and then ran away. The same girl who was bullied by her former classmates earlier not only ran away, but was already behind Asumi's back, stabbing her back with a knife. Then she snatched the gun back, twisting it in her hand. The schoolgirl started crying while Kazuya asks what happened, saying out loud that she understands that what she did was wrong. Naoko slashed the knife across her face with the sharp convex part that is on the other side of the knife, along with the skin, giving away her eyes. Blinded and rushing to run, Asumi found herself on the street. Pumpkin Knight slowly follows, holding the phone in her hands. Where on the other side, Kazuya is still asking to tell what is going on there with a classmate. The blind woman tries to escape and finds herself on a two-way road where she is hit by a truck at high speed. So much so that she was torn into several parts that wound on the wheels. Kazuya continues to ask on the phone what happens when a familiar voice that doesn't belong to Asumi answers. Asumi is no more. She's dead, Naoko says. And you're next. Then we see Asumi's funeral, where we get acquainted with the main characters. Actually, Kazuya, a girl named Saki, Jamila named Arata, and a handsome man with a proud and unique name, Naruto. The latter, by the way, immediately warns Kazu and does not tell the police anything, because then they may begin to suspect. The next chapter begins with a media report reporting on Naoko's escape. According to current data, she ran away and killed 20 people. This news is watched in a dark apartment, and the girl herself is happily dancing, saying that soon everyone will be terrified. On behalf of Naoko Kirin. On the street, former classmates are discussing the latest events. Of course, science was mocked. She always walked around with such a stupid look. But why did she run away now? So many years, and how can you be sure that this is really a science? It's hard to say for sure, but it seemed to Kaz that the voice was like a child's. But this, as an argument, is enough. She's a self-centered person who doesn't care about others and who's always mumbling to herself. Naruto notices that Naoko most likely has Asumi's mobile phone left. Using it, it will be possible to track the girl and get ahead of the police. When they find it, they'll kill it and make it look like an accident. Arata agrees. Saki is still doubtful. Kazuya remembers how he couldn't stop them that time either. Naruto asks the guy to give the phone. When he picks it up, he notices an unread message. Seeing the profile of Pumpkin Knight, everyone shows that this person also subscribed to them. Seiki says that this is definitely science because the girl went crazy because of the Halloween pumpkin. A classmate panics and she runs away. The others decided to split up to find her. Saki herself, having run away, settled down on the stairs. While she is crying, the rumor says, "I don't want to die. Don't you want to die? What are you talking about?" A voice is heard behind her. This is Hirakawa's supervisor, who wants to know if Saki knows anything about the death of a classmate. But the dialogue is not destined to continue. A giant kitchen knife pierced the skull from the top of the head to the chin. An eye appeared from behind. Slipping on Hirakawa's blood, Saki fell. Then, with the words, "It's time for your death," Pumpkin Knight rushed at a former classmate, hitting the face of the reverse side of the amateur. The girl whose nose had just been broken started crying in pain, but science is not going to stop, striking one blow after another. At this time, the others are looking for Saki. Naruto is approached by another new character, Nomizu, who asks if he has lost someone here. In addition to this, with a slight flirtation, she notices that she knows all the little secrets of the handsome man. A fire alarm siren began to sound throughout the building. While the others are being evacuated, Science calmly rolls out the bag in which the still-alive Saki is hidden. So the killer calmly brings her to the coffin with Asumi. "Don't be afraid," she says, looking at the photo of her first victim. "Your friend will share your painful fate with you." On the street, Kazuya finds out that there is no reason to worry. There is no sign of a fire in the building, so the alarm is false. While Nomizu sticks to Naruto, Arata and Kazuya are trying to figure out if Saki could have just left before. And along the way, we find out that the handsome man had sexual relations with a girl with glasses. The publication was taken out of the coffin and loaded into a hearse. Kazu hears talk that the lid has been closed for the entire service because Asumi's body is disfigured beyond recognition. Accidentally looking up and seeing on the roof waving at the eye, he realizes that his girlfriend is most likely inside the coffin. Then they call a taxi to follow the hearse. Seeing them off, Pumpkin Knight says, "Kazuya, try as much as you want, but there will be no forgiveness for you." On the run, the heroes are stopped by the cry of the crowd, and they turn around and see their curator. After undressing him, releasing his insides, and disfiguring him even more, hanging him by the neck, Science lowered his body directly from the roof. "We need to hurry up, because maybe Saki can still be saved." Catching a taxi, Naruto turns on the actor to encourage the driver to rush after the hearse. It works, and the impressed taxi driver presses the slipper into the floor. But then Pumpkin Knight catches up with them on a motorcycle and hits the windshield with a long pipe. The driver loses control and the car drives into the fence. The school children were not particularly injured, but the taxi driver is dead. A piece of iron fence pierced his head. Smiling, Science leaves. Casey fell, losing consciousness. Saki opened her eyes, seeing wooden doors in front of her. She's in a coffin, bound hand and foot. The mouth is also closed. Now the coffin is being brought into the crematorium with her. She feels that something is lying under her. These are the remains of Asumi's girlfriend. Science, on the other hand, removes the pipe of the crematorium from the outside, waiting for smoke to come out. Checking the names of former classmates, the girl in the pumpkin mask says that they will soon go to heaven. The coffin is put in the oven, a fire is lit, and smoke comes out of the chimney. Science rejoices in its next victory as a patrol car stops behind. Seeing a high school student on a bike, and even in a Halloween mask, to which the girls come closer for a whole month. Without further hesitation, Pumpkin stabbed one and then headed for the already fleeing second. Having finished it, Science returned to shooting. Meanwhile, Saki is burning. The shackles burned down, and therefore loud noises suddenly began to be heard from the furnace. Turning it off and opening it, the person present sees a burned girl whose flesh has already stuck to the remains of Asumi. Reading the news at the hospital, Kazuya says out loud that Science has gone too far. Naruto and Arata approach him, who add that it's all about fear. The girl doesn't care who to kill. Her main goal is to scare the others. The guys escaped with minor injuries, which cannot be said about the saga itself. She is still alive, and doctors are now fighting for her life. Kazuya thinks things have gone too far. "We need to tell the police about what is happening." Friends understand that perhaps their friend is right. Saki's pulse is rising. The doctors try to talk to her, but she goes into severe shock. First of all, because of the Science itself, which looked out of the hatch under the ceiling. The victim begins to twitch, and doctors try to stop her. One of the staff turns around at the pumpkin that appeared and immediately gets a knife in the face. While the others examine the body, not understanding where the knife came from, Pumpkin Knight herself chooses her next weapon. Using a drill, scalpels, and scissors, she finishes off the others with special cruelty. When she finished, she turned to Saki and smiled. "Do you like riddles?" What did the victim say to the serial killer? Having raised the boron machine, suddenly Pumpkin had another idea. Having bared the wires, she said a real shock awaits you, went to the burned one, and electrocuted her. This caused the lights to go out all over the room. Then Arata expresses concerns about the course of the operation, and friends break into the ward. There they find Isaki's staff slaughtered with a cut face. She looks terrible, but she's still alive, which friends are incredibly happy about. We see that there is a pumpkin mask under the cot. A little later, the girls provided care. While her friends are visiting her in the ward, police screams can be heard on the street. A new character, a creepy detective named Matsui, takes up the case. Classmates continue to discuss the situation. Saki's parents are in America now, and they will come only tomorrow. Naruto believes that Naoko deliberately left the girl alive. In general, there is a theory that Pumpkin is not going to kill them. After all, for example, she didn't kill Asumi, she died by accident, running out onto the road. The real goal of the girl, the handsome man believes, is to play with former bullers. Naruto again states that they should act according to the plan, and not tell the police anything. They will get rid of this problem themselves. Kazuya is silent, but does not agree with them, believing that they are just trying to get out of a problematic situation, safely for themselves. Meanwhile, the patient opened her eyes, noticing Kazuya's sad look. Don't be so gloomy, she thinks. It will all be over soon. At the police station, the detective looks at the pumpkin mask, which was found under the operating table. He immediately links all these events into one single chain, coming to the conclusion that they are all connected with each other. The culprit must be somewhere nearby. The man asks for a list of the victim's friends and identifies Kazuya as the weakest link. We are transported to the morgue. The medical staff is confused there. 8 doctors and nurses were killed, and 9 bodies were counted. The last girl with burnt skin who died from an electric shock. At the same time, the bandaged science looks at the Kazu sitting in the ward. The sight of him brings back memories to her. After killing Saki, Pumpkin mutilated herself so as to look more like a victim. And it worked. When she saw that the guy had dozed off, she got up and stretched out her arms to him. They barely reached the neck when, in a dream, the guy called her by name. He dreams about his school years. Then the results of the voting for the name of the Halloween Queen were announced. Science was given out as the winner. Kazuya ran into an empty laboratory classroom where only one classmate was sitting. She doesn't believe that she actually won, although she still intends to become the Queen of Halloween even if it's a trap. The guy asks him to believe him. The winners choose only the most beautiful. Science is cute, so it deserves it. But the future Pumpkin Knight herself knows that she is cute, but she doubts that this is why she was chosen. Kazuya insists otherwise, and the girl decides to believe him. With all her appearance, she shows how happy she is to win. Looking at her, the guy thinks that Science is not like everyone else. She has a strange appearance, overflowing emotions, and an unusual manner of communication. However, when she behaves normally, she is actually cute. And only the fact that she does not behave like everyone else is the reason for bullying at school. Smiling, Science came closer and for no reason kissed Kazuya on the lips, then laughed and began to dance. Because she does such strange things, the guy thinks. Everyone hates her, but I don't care what others think of her. The dream moves to the moment of the Halloween ball. Everyone is laughing at a girl in a fluffy dress with a burnt face and burnt hair. Hiding behind her hands, she turns to Kaz. Liar, liar, it was definitely a trap. In a panic, he wakes up, glad that it was just a dream. Looking at Science pretending to be Saki, he wonders why it ended up like this. Going out into the corridor, he asks in his mind that the pumpkin has already come for him. And suddenly he sees her in front of him. Turning around, Pumpkin Knight began to run away. Kazuya rushed after him, but turning the corner, bumps into a detective. Pumpkin takes off the mask, and it turns out that it's just a cop's assistant. Matsui introduces himself and says that he would like to know the whole history of Science in great detail. At the same time, her parents rush to Saki's room. The father runs slowly because he carries working documentation, and the mother was late at all because she had tickets to the musical. Running into the ward and seeing the bandaged daughter, they begin to scream. Having opened her eyes, Science thinks that she will gladly send them after her daughter. In a separate room, Matsui showed all the pictures of the dead and talked about how Science sees the connection with everything that is happening. It's a little early to turn pale, but the detective is glad. Kazuya's emotions say that he is on the right track. He continues to tell. The number of dead people in the last 4 days is exorbitant. And if they don't stop the pumpkin, the figure will only grow. And Kazu's reaction shows that the guy knows more than he tells. Seeing a photo of one of the bodies, the guy picks it up. This is Saki. In other words, this is a photo of the body of the dead. The man, who is now bandaged, is lying in the ward. And we, in fact, are transported there. Parents are yelling at the whole room. It's too stuffy inside. The daughter can't stay here, so the husband should use his connections right now to transfer Saki to a private hospital. When the wounded open their eyes, the parents begin to rejoice. In response, they hear, "You talk too much." Grabbing a syringe with the words, "Shut your mouth," Science sticks it right in the mother's face, or rather, in her tongue. Kazuya ran to the ward. The policeman is behind him. It turns out, according to the guy, Science killed Saki and swapped places with her. In the ward, parents do not understand why their daughter attacked them. Then a bunch of syringes flew into the father's face. "You can't even recognize your daughter," says Pumpkin. "What kind of terrible parents are they? No wonder my daughter has become a terrible person." The mother remembers the girl. Saki had talked about her before. Calling Science a monster, the woman says that a creature like her should be punished. "That's why your face was burned," mother says. "You only deserve to be called a monster." She repeated her monster many times until the very end. She fell silent after the pumpkin pierced both eye sockets with syringes. A policeman together with the interrogated person in the elevator of the hospital. There the guy said that the face of Science was burned. It was an accident. Every year in high school, they held a Halloween party, and there they chose the Queen of Halloween. Instead of a crown, there was a pumpkin mask. But there were firecrackers in the pumpkin on the eye. Since the girl was an eccentric, and everyone hated her, they wanted to humiliate her in front of the whole school. The firecrackers exploded, and along with the reaction to the hair fret, the inside of the pumpkin was engulfed in fire. He couldn't be seen from the outside, so the others continued to laugh while the girl rolled around the stage. We're back in the ward. The bandaged woman continued to beat Saki's mother even when the syringes lost their needles. Watching this picture, the father finally plucked up the courage to take up a chair and hit, but missed, hitting his dead wife. Then a pumpkin appeared from behind with the remains of syringes cutting his throat. While the elevator is still going, Matsui rubs his head tiredly, complaining that he does not get normal things. Science wants revenge, so according to him, most likely they will have to kill the bitch. The elevator arrived at the place. The doors open, and a panicked crowd immediately falls inside. The crush begins. Harry's scent can be felt from the corridor. Standing in the elevator, Kazuya notices a hooded man out of the corner of his eye. Kachuya, distorting his name, speaks to the eye. "It's time to get to know me." There's still a crush in the elevator. The panic is growing. Matsui tries to get out and, turning around, sees Kazuya talking to someone. And looking closely, he understands with whom. "I have to go back," but the elevator doors have started to close. As soon as he begins to worry that he was tricked, the medical staff attracts the detective's attention. They tried to evacuate the patients, but in one of the wards, Matsuya rushes there. And now Science is talking to Kazuya in the elevator. "I knew that you would be here, that's why I switched places with her. So I can stay with you a little longer, even though this moment will be fleeting." Matsui walked into the room and realized the reason for the nurse's panic. Pumpkin Knight beheaded Saga's parents. Both heads were shoved into the stomach of a full husband, so much so that they seemed to be kissing. Flowers were planted in the place where his head used to be. The entrails are scattered all over the floor. It is written in blood on the floor. I may be wrong, but it seems to translate as a friendly family. In the elevator, Science smiled at Kaz and headed for the exit. Finally, she says, "Don't think I've forgotten everything. I left you for dessert." The guy calls out to her and asks why the girl keeps killing. It was an accident, a bad joke. In response, she asks, does Kazuya really think that firecrackers and hairspray caused such serious burns? Who in their right mind would believe that? It's not the firecrackers, but the pumpkin mask, which was made especially for her. Going down the stairs, Matsui says that everything is more serious here. According to Kazuya, from firecrackers and varnish, the face would be burned only a little. He's sure there's something else here. We return to Kazuya, who asks why he didn't know about all this. He was told a completely different story. Last question. Why didn't you tell anyone? And Pumpkin answers, I told them, I tried to tell the adults, but they turned a blind eye to it. So I decided to be on my own. Turning around, Science went towards the exit. But before she left the room, she turned around and blew a kiss. When she disappeared, a detective appeared in front of Kaza. The question of where the girl is. But he only said that she was no longer here. She's long gone, and now no one will stop her. Later, the guy met with Sarada and Naruto, telling about everything that happened. Friends are furious that she was so close, heard their conversations, and tried to find out who was behind the prank. With a mask. Matsui and his assistant are now looking at the photo of Science before it was burned. The second one notices that the girl is quite cute and adds that she has a strong personality that makes her stand out. For example, her earrings and a large ribbon. It is not surprising that Science began to be mocked. The detective notices that it seems that the bullying was very serious. He shows a photo from a school trip where Science is beaten and with cropped hair. However, she put on an eye-catching bow and went to school anyway, despite her appearance. Probably, the offenders were offended by this behavior, and therefore the bullying became tougher and tougher all the time. His gut tells him it wasn't an accident, her face was deliberately burned. We are transported to Naruto, who is reading the news, sitting somewhere in the yard. Then Nomizu approaches him. She says that since bullying was the reason for all this, the media would definitely cling to it. The handsome man is angry, saying that this is nonsense in general. What connection can there be between them and all these murders? He tries to leave, but Nomizu suddenly says that the pumpkin mask is the same pumpkin mask she has. She saw Naruto doing something to her. Then she didn't understand what exactly. When she saw Science writhing in pain, she began to look for him with her eyes and found him. Naruto laughed, waited to yell, and 5. While some were trying to put out the girl, Nomizu took the pumpkin mask for herself. But there's nothing to worry about. The girl with glasses is on his side. Pushing him to the ground, she sat on top, bared her breasts, and kissed the handsome man. She had already begun to undress further when suddenly a hook with a rope stuck into her left breast, with which the pumpkin had already thrown over a tree branch and began to pull. When Nomizu hung in the air, Pumpkin Knight fixed the rope on the fence. She has no pity for a rocking horse. After all, that ordinary girl who gave herself to everyone she met. Naruto is trying to escape, but since he is behind everything that is happening, Science will not just let him go. Handsome says that a classmate misunderstood everything. They were jokes about a practical joke. He didn't want to hurt her in any way. Science is distracted by a screaming girl with glasses to kick her. And then Naruto immediately rushes at her with his fists. It's just a girl, she doesn't have the strength of a man, he thinks, thrusting his fist forward. Taking out a knife, Pumpkin simply put it under the flying fist, and the weapon split his palm into 2 parts. Then he got hit on the head with a brick. After some time, Naruto came to himself in another room. The girl with glasses with him, being tied hand and foot. The guy is tied to a beam. Nomizu is on the floor, also tied up and with bandaged eyes. Hearing that Handsome is also here, Nomizu begins to crawl towards him. That's just a wire stretched from her body, which runs through the room with the help of pulleys and ends at Naruto's neck. The closer it is, the deeper it digs down. The girl continues to crawl, but Pumpkin turns on the live broadcast. At this time, Naruto fast food is waiting for Arata and Kaza. A notification arrives, and the second one tells the jock that the handsome one will not come anymore. Naruto asks the girl not to approach and pushes her away with his foot, simultaneously trying to free his hands from the ropes that were soaked with his blood. Coming closer, Science points the camera at him and says, "Tell me." She wants the guy to tell her what happened. If he tells her, she'll let him go. The broadcast is watched all over Japan. Even in a cafe, people are watching Naruto's interrogation live. Arata begins to panic. Kazuya gravely asks why the harmless prank ended like this and why no one put an end to it. Naruto, after several threats, gave up. "It's all me," he says. "I added sulfuric acid to your mask, put it in plastic bags, and fixed it inside. They would burst when you put on the pumpkin, and the acid would eat away at your face." Arata sees the reaction of people in the cafe, and he becomes more and more afraid. Then Kazuya grabs him and asks why. Why did they do such a terrible thing to her? Arata answers, "There was no reason for her harassment. We did it because it was fun." Naruto asks him to let go. His life is over. Naoko got what she wanted. While he is trying to free his hands again, Pumpkin lifted Nomizu by the hair and pierced his temple with a knife. Then she pulled the hook out through her chest, threw it over the beam at the top, and fixed it on the door. When someone opens it, the rope will quickly tighten and decapitate him. Arata and Kazuya are running to school now. The first one recognized the place with the broadcast. This is the school storeroom. Naruto, on the other hand, is now trying his best to apologize to Science, to which she replies that the handsome man himself did not spare her. "Even when I cried, when I screamed, you liked it. And the bullying has become so cruel that each of you has become like the devil for me." However, only Kazuya refused to take part in all this, she says. Hearing this name, and assuming that Pumpkin was in some kind of relationship with Kazuya, Naruto decided to take advantage of it. He started laughing. "And I didn't suspect anything. You and that psycho. It was Kazuya who said we should intimidate you." The handsome man lied. Science does not believe, but reacts emotionally. When she gets closer to Naruto, freeing her arms and neck, grabs it and wraps the wire around the wrist of her right hand. The door opened because of Arata, and Pumpkin lost almost all of her fingers on it. Then the jock approaches Science and kicks her in the stomach. Then on the head, breaking the pumpkin mask. Then he sat on top of her and began to beat her on the head with his fists. Kazuya realizes that Pumpkin is literally about to be killed, and he is standing there again and can't do anything. When Arata began to strangle on the eye, Kazuya finds the strength to push his ex-friend off the girl with his foot. I did it. Finally, letting out tears, he leaned over to Naoko, hugged her and said, I like you. I really like you, Naoko. Also starting to cry, Pumpkin smiles and answers, you finally said it, even if it's a little late. They continue to repeat each other's names and hug when, armed with baseball bats, Naruto and Arata began to beat them. Now we need to get rid of these two, and Naruto is calling someone. While an unknown person goes to help our bullies, we find out that suddenly the Pumpkin Night case is closed. Matsui doesn't understand anything because the killer is still at large. But judging by the rumors, the order for this came from someone high-ranking. At school, where Science had dragged the handsome man, a security guard checked the room at night. He saw a car in the window. When approached with a demand to get out of the car, the window opens. And do you think Naruto called Minato for help? No, he called Trump. This one, though not the president, is the mayor. Mayor Kuroki, who immediately says, you didn't see anything. If you want to live in the city, then you haven't seen anything. The guard showed that he understood Kuroki, and the car left the school. In the salon, Naruto and Arata, who immediately began to admire their father. Even a demon can't stand up to the likes of me. The mayor of the city shows his nature. In the back of the cabin, we see Kazuya, Naoko, and Nomizu's corpse tied up. The first, hearing the name of a new accomplice, recalls his father Naruto, the ruler of the city, who, according to rumors, used Yakuza. While Kazuya remembers, the handsome man and his friend happily surf the internet. The internet understands that all the re-uploads of the stream with recognition are removed from the internet. The son thanks his father again for intervening. He replies that everything is as it was then. At that time, Science was a victim, but he forced all the witnesses to personally change their testimony, and forcibly placed her in a mental hospital for the rest of her days. Hearing his speech, Kazuya compares the word science and mentally apologizes to her for the fact that the girl suffered alone. Mayor Kuroki brought the prisoners to the construction site. This is the new city hall, which will be built here in a year. That's where they get rid of the bodies. They will be dumped into a pit 20 meters deep, and tomorrow this very one. The pit will be filled with concrete. The girl with glasses flew down first. Naoka and Kazuya were put on a loader. The mayor is proud that he is like a big boss. Naruto is proud that his dad is like a big boss. And while they are laughing, Pumpkin begins to say, you will never be forgiven. I will crawl out of hell itself to cut into small cubes each of you. My return is inevitable. The more she talks, the louder. I invite you to Pumpkin Night. I will crawl out of the darkness and strike at those who live in the light. People like you are doomed. The night will kill you once, twice, 3 times, because I'm not even human. And I will come back as many times as it takes. The boys are scared of her behavior, showing, admiring, mentally calling her the best. The mayor only gets angry from such a speech, so he gasses and throws the remaining prisoners into the pit. At this height, they will not survive in any way, but the villains still do not seem to be winners. Arata continues to feel fear at all, scrolling through the last words he said in his head. He realizes that he is still afraid, and then the fear only gets stronger. On the roof of a nearby building, he sees a girl in a school uniform and with a pumpkin mask on her head. He screams, falls to his knees, and asks for forgiveness. When Naruto comes to him and he points to the roof, his friend no longer sees anyone there. Apparently, a hallucination on the background of fatigue. Pumpkin, however, continues to move towards the crime scene. Kazuya opens his eyes. He survived by landing on the body of a dead girl with glasses. Rising up, he finds Anne on the eye. She fell right onto a column of rebars that riddled her body. The guy screams loudly so that Pumpkin Knight hears him outside. The angel gives voice to the eye. I think this is the end for me. Blow up this city and have fun. The sea is cool. Imagining him carrying her on his back along the beach, Science continues. We can do everything that I didn't have time to do before. We'll get back everything they took from me. I bet it's going to be a lot of fun. Kazuya replies, let's go. After we get out of here, we'll go together. She only managed to utter Science before her death. Down the stairs came a man who says that Science will not return. No matter how much he cries, it's Detective Matsui's assistant dressed as Pumpkin Knight. Then we get extra chapters. An unknown muscular man in a bar in front of the girls mocks his kohai. At first, he humiliates him for reading the Pumpkin Night comic. Then, after the words, he comes to assault. The guy endures, but at some point gets up and goes out. He returns already in a pumpkin mask, stabbing Senpai with a knife. Grabbing a beer mug and hitting the former victim, the elder runs away. We urgently need to call for help, and along the way, he bumps into a guy, asking him to call an ambulance or the police. He calls, but other people come, people with pumpkins on their heads. All these people, friends, fucking this guy. He starts telling them that people like Senpai get everything. And he never even thought that someone would look for him to get even. In tears, the man kneels down and asks him to spare him. But no, there will be no forgiveness. And now, in the new volume, we return to Kaz. While the assistant policeman Hayakawa takes the victim away with a stylus in an unknown direction. She says that she was surprised when she learned about the connection of the mayor's son with this situation. She was waiting for Dad to come to Naruto's aid. Kazuya asks, if she was waiting, why didn't the girl just intervene and arrest those involved at the time of the murder and disposal of the bodies? He asks, she wouldn't go to the police. It doesn't make sense because the police are on the lead of Kuroka. Then Hayakawa confesses her father was also killed. He was a politician who competed with the current mayor. The police did not bother to investigate this case. Kazuya sums up that the mayor just killed his opponent. The girl decided to become a police officer because of this, but she can do little, given that the law enforcement agencies are subordinate to Kuroka. Therefore, she was waiting for someone like him to appear who would want to join for revenge. The crazy look of the guy scares the girl so much that our car brakes sharply. Before that, he behaved completely differently. She has a very bad feeling about this. Kazuya, on the other hand, shows with his whole appearance that he has gone mad. Grimacing and letting out his tongue, he promises that he will kill them all. Pumpkin Night is back. Arata is in a panic because he meets Halloween pumpkins everywhere on the street. She is so strong that even with a cry, the falcon's blow hit the face of a mother passing by with a child. Then he ran away and told Naruto what had happened. He blames the pumpkins and Naoko's words for everything, which he can't get out of his head. Plus, he realized what happened only after he hit the lady. Naruto realizes that his friend is slowly going crazy. Later, when Naruto kicked his friend out of the apartment, he goes down in the elevator. Suddenly, the hatch cover at the top of the cabin opens and a wire descends down, which immediately throws itself around Arata's neck. Someone started pulling up, and unfortunately for the guy, it's Pumpkin Night. The elevator door opened, and outside, a woman and a child saw a man hanging in the air. He asks for help, but immediately realizes that this is exactly the woman he hit in a panic. "What, did you like it with me?" says Pumpkin, and then I look, "You're not planning to run away." Then Arata manages to pull himself together, and he grabs the attacker. It's a hand and a cock's voice. "You're definitely not on the eye, Kazuya. I'm afraid on the eye, but not you," he said, throwing the guy down. Smashing him on the floor, he kicked him. The rumor surprises that he managed to survive. When Kazuya says, "I'm not some kind of fake, but a real pumpkin," Arata shows fear again. Releasing the hidden blades, he stabbed both knives into the leg, and then yanked upwards. Without giving Arata a chance to recover, Kazuya immediately began to kick his former friend's injured limb with his foot. Seeing the hysterical laughter of the one who went, the big guy says that he was mistaken. And it's definitely not Kazuya in front of him. It's a pumpkin. Pumpkin rose from hell. We are transported to Naruto, who reads what Halloween is. Smiling, he throws the phone on the bed with the words that science cannot return in any way. Meanwhile, Kazuya uses knives to yell one blow after another. At some point, his bare foot slips on the blood and hits the control panel, which causes the elevator door to open. Taking advantage of the opportunity, Arata pushes the pumpkin into the opening. He gets up and runs back, but the big guy manages to escape. Somehow he managed to get to the playground where Naruto lives. The guy, however, hears a man in a pumpkin mask running up the stairs after him. Arata starts banging on the doorbell, asking to open it. Kazuya had already caught up with him. When he rushed to him, the door opened, and Naruto jerked his friend inside with the same door and closing himself from the knife. Kazuya continued to attack this very door. "Why are you in seclusion there?" Pumpkin screams, "Would you like to play with me? I assure you, we will have a lot of fun together." Naruto realizes that the voice behind the door is male. Arata explains that this is Kazuya, who was possessed by a pumpkin. After some time, Kazuya left, cutting the door to his heart's content. Arata asks to call an ambulance, as he is very sick right now. Instead, Naruto asks to explain what he was making up behind the story about the fact that science has returned. And moved into Kazuya, Luke explains that Pumpkin is a demon. He believes that Halloween evil spirits possessed science, filling it with rage, and then moved to Kazuya. When he says, "We have no chance, and let's surrender to the police, because maybe then they will be forgiven and spared." Naruto takes a pillow and kills his friend himself. The Halloween demon then speaks by himself handsome. "But let him try to compete with me. I'll give him a fun return to hell." After going to some place where Naoko was buried, Kazuya speaks with a pumpkin mask. He promises that the end is near and asks to wait. Soon everyone will be rewarded in full. This conversation is being watched by a police assistant. She herself thinks that his behavior looks like a split personality. Yes, she needs to show him to a psychiatrist, but without the power of pumpkin, she will not be able to avenge her father. Suddenly her phone vibrated. A transmitter was activated, informing that the mayor's car had gone somewhere. Apparently, he's heading to his son, so it's time for them to move out. Rushes to help the son of Saratov, because he cannot be taken to the hospital. Everything goes according to plan. Naruto and Tatsukaroki are both dead. With the last words, the guy put his new pumpkin mask on his head. When the mayor's father came to his son, he found him all covered in blood behind the dismemberment of Arata in the bathroom. A little later, they both drive in the car. Along the way, the father silently thinks how Kazuya was able to survive such a fall. In addition, Naruto seems to have gone off the rails. Mark has just decided that it seems he will have to do everything himself when on the bridge. He sees a dark figure with something big in his hands. This is Kazuya in a shameful mask and with a gas cylinder in his hands, who immediately threw a heavy object into the windshield. When the car was at the right distance, then he went downstairs himself, followed by Hayakawa. That's just as soon as we got closer to the vehicle, some buggers got out of the back. The bandits immediately attack the girl. She realizes that she is almost in a hopeless situation. The mayor himself turns to Kazuya, saying that this is how adults understand. Switching to him, the new pumpkin knight attacked with a knife, but to no avail. He is separated from the victim by armored glass. More bandits appear from behind, surrounding Kazuya. Naruto rejoices, saying that it's over. Here it is, a pathetic ending for Pumpkin. Then the driver lets go of the knives. Everyone thought that he decided to give up, but then Kazuya takes out a diclofos and a lighter, attacking with fire. Watching the murder of bandits, Naruto realizes that Kazuya has turned even more than once on the eye. Hayakawa is also not far behind. She threw one over her shoulder, gouged out the eyes of the second, stabbed the third with a knife hidden in her sleeve, right in the groin. Then she freezes for a second, looking up at the sky and thinking that she has just crossed an invisible line. It looks like she's possessed by a demon now, too. The Kuroki family is next in line. Then they remembered that they were actually in the car, which means that they can leave and give the back. The car hits the girl, and she loses consciousness. Kazuya is next in line. Naruto shouts that Pumpkin will now understand who actually crossed the road. The car is on the gas, but you can't scare a guy like that. He shows the lighter again, which he subsequently throws into the broken windshield. The car explodes. Kazuya looks at this picture, enjoying his victory. The father burned down, but Naruto managed to crawl out. He tries to crawl away, but a former friend in a pumpkin mask turns out to be in front of him, who offers to play again. Naruto rushed to run, but there was no strength left, so Kazuya only slowly pursues his former comrade. Seeing the motorcycle, the handsome man calls for help. He shouts that he is being chased by a crazy maniac and asks for help. But the guys think it's some kind of joke, and therefore they smile cheerfully and come by. Kazuya plays along with them, pretending that this performance is sweet or nasty, he asks. When the guys leave, Naruto, he says, "Today everything is on my side. After all, on Halloween night, the world belongs to the souls of the dead." The mayor's son asked everyone for help, even the Easter egg. But everyone took it as a show, largely because of Kazuya's deliberate play. Running away under the death of other people, Naruto does not understand. Why doesn't anyone help him? A lot of people, and none of them will stand up for him. Then he gets it. Ah, so no one will help me. His head is filled with memories of how he mocked science, and no one tried to stop him. Detective Matsui hears in the police car that the mayor burned down in the minibus. According to the information, a police Hayakawa was also found there. At the moment, she is being taken to the hospital, and in addition, a dismembered body was found on the spot, as yet unidentified. Meanwhile, Naruto continues to run away. He jumps into an alley and realizes that he has hit a dead end. Kazuya is already behind him. "It's my fault," Naruto says, kneeling down. "I'm a terrible person. Please forgive me. I had no idea that you loved the eye." He continues trying to bargain for his life, as Pumpkin suddenly says, "Naoko, what does she have to do with it? I'm mocking you because it's fun. Isn't it clear?" Kazuya lists why he likes to be bullied. And then a former friend calls him the devil. Pumpkin hits the handle of a knife on the head of a handsome man. When he falls, Kazuya cuts off part of the scalp and skull with a knife, exposing the brains. Then he slaps Naruto so that he doesn't dare to lose consciousness. And now, the final part of the program is sulfuric acid. Opening the bottle, Kazuya poured the contents right inside. He was laughing all over the alley, even when Naruto was already dead. A festival is taking place on the street. People welcome Halloween. Suddenly, someone from the crowd notices a figure with a pumpkin mask on the roof who is dancing with a severed head. The next day, people are animatedly discussing the fact that a man was seen on the roof with his head in his hands. The name of the killer is not disclosed by the media. All that is known is that he is now in a mental hospital. We see Kazuya, who is being tried to calm down by the orderlies. And then we hear someone's dialogue again. There, one person informs another that they say that science is still alive. She's lurking somewhere in town, looking for the bastards. On Halloween, she will come to them in the form of a pumpkin and kill them, no matter where they hide. In the last frames, we see a grave with a pumpkin mask on it. A bandaged hand suddenly breaks out of it. Let the one who mocked cry. Let him lock the door in fear. What? Was he really scared? Then only death awaits you now. The end of the first part. When I first started reading this manga, I was surprised by the number of chapters. What can you tell more than 100 when revenge is based on 5 characters? Although, on the other hand, well, at least in this case, at least Kyo remained alive, and there seems to be no one to take revenge. But this is Masaya, which means that now the story will begin to merge into a fierce towards Nina. She, of course, has already started with death on the eye, but here the author seems to have fallen short of his usual level. I believe that there will be more in the future. In general, we will find out about this in the next video. And now about what I've read. But let's start with a drawing. The most important thing is Art Niguchi Hisabalm. Sometimes you can see, of course, that Masi helped him with some frames, but carefully, so as not to get out of the same style. Although it's still noticeable. As for violence, here it is one of the most graphic of all that have been on my channel. The level of cruelty is higher than in Metamorphosis. It feels like the artist just savored every drawing. But at the same time, he savored something else. Panzo, my god, there are so many cowards here. Especially at the very beginning. The mangaka should not be fed bread, just let them draw them once again. I have nothing against it, sometimes I count such works with pleasure. But personally, it's hard for me to empathize with the drama of a character who was bullied and who is now seeking revenge. When they tried to sexualize her. Not in every frame. The frames are perfectly drawn and the 2-page spreads are completely top. It's nice to look at everything here, especially the references. As for the characters, then everything is as always in the works of mangaki. At first glance, there is nothing remarkable, except that one character from the opposite side begins to feed himself. Sympathy for the bad is already a standard trope of Masaya. Nevertheless, it is interesting to follow them. It is immediately clear that the characters themselves are to blame for what is happening. The reason for such cruel harassment is not fully understood, because no matter how you look at it, and almost everyone recognizes it. Science is cute. Yes, with the help of earrings and bows. Highlighting your personality, but as if not so much that you want to burn your face because of it. Although, on the other hand, it also emphasizes how much the reason is not important to some at all. Regarding the history, there is little to say yet. It began interestingly, but began to slide with a fairly quick death. Orders the roles of Pumpkin to watch as if it was not so interesting anymore. Apparently, the author didn't have any fun working with him either, since he suddenly decided to resurrect on the eye. Although we will find out about what will happen next later. Otherwise, we already know what to expect from Masaya Hakazona. More thrash and fumes, blood. More scoring on logic and so on. More specifically, share in the comments how you felt about this manga. Then like and sub, so I can keep finding my manga addiction and more reviews coming. Thank you all for your attention. This is DanZiNinja. See you, my friends.